Welcome everybody to Ballin. My name is Aidan Glenn, your host today, and I have a very special guest with me in this particular chat. It's very something that I don't normally do, but this particular guest lives all the way across the country. His name is Karim Chelli. He is a mindset coach. Welcome to the show, Karim. It's lovely to have you on board.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Not a problem, mate. Not a problem. I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you, Karim, as a guest here on Pokeballing, is that I understand that you have been doing mindset coaching and working with poker players of certain skill sets for a fair bit of time now. Mate, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you actually got into this role?
Yeah, so my background is a little bit different than probably most other mindset coaches in this industry. Because I actually started in a different niche. I was a dating coach for 4 years. So I helped guys to find a girlfriend. And what happened was after in year 4 or so, a guy from the military came to me. And you have to imagine tall, bald, beard like that, tattoos all over his body. He came to me and he said, if I can help him because he has a lot of approach anxiety. I'm like, I deal with this every day. Sure, let's see how bad it really is. So we went outside in the middle of the day and I said to him, do you see this old lady there? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, just go over, ask for the direction, ask where's the next supermarket, whatever you want to ask. Have a short conversation, then come back, right? So should be easily done, 10-second interaction. So what happened was he started to shake and he started to cry in the middle of the street. And for me, this was the first and only time in my life that I know I could not help someone. Which for me as a coach is the worst case scenario. But I knew this is something from his past, this is something from his childhood, and I didn't have the skill set at this moment of time. So I told him, give me 2 weeks and I promise I come back with a solution. So what I did is I went home and nearly day and night, I tried to find a solution for him, read books, articles, whatever I found to find something that maybe solves problems from his childhood, from his past, whatever he needed, right? Few different approaches that I've written down. So I got back after 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, so I have a few things now that we could try out. Let's see how it goes. So we tried a few things out. They started to work. And I'm like, wow, that's good. But also my other clients, they got better results as well. So I'm like, this mindset stuff is amazing. And I want to change my niche because for me, my goal as a coach is to help my clients as much as possible. And helping someone to find a girlfriend is something beautiful and important. But I think, to be honest, with mindset and performance coaching, I can do much, much more. So what I did is I decided to change my niche to coach only mindset. And the first niche that I went into was business guys, right? People with a business, people in important job positions, who need that, who may be also under a lot of pressure, for example. So I started to coach them. So I also have a business background. And then after one of my speeches here in Vienna, a guy approached me and said that my knowledge is really special. And if I want to go to dinner with him and his flatmate. So I'm like, sure, but which business do you have? And he's like, I'm not telling you. Let's go for dinner. Maybe I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
So we went to the cab, and I thought which legit and successful business owner has a flatmate and doesn't tell you what he does for a living, right? So I'm like, something is wrong here. Something is very wrong here. And I'm like, they're nice, let's see how it goes. So we went for dinner. We had a great time. And at the end of the dinner, I'm like, okay, guys, so tell me what you do for a living. And they're like, yeah, so we're professional poker players, right? So this was roughly 3 years ago, a little bit more. And they invited me over the next day because I was like, what is poker? I had no idea about this, right? So they're like, yeah, let's come over tomorrow and we show you.
Yeah.
So the next day I went there. They had a huge apartment, extremely beautiful. One of the most beautiful apartment I've ever saw in my life. And I'm like, okay, like poker is a legit business, so tell me what it is, right? And they're like, yeah, let's sit down. And like, you have to imagine I play with the high stakes pros, you know, like never played poker in my life. With the high stakes pros, I'm like, 7 deuce off, is that a good hand? They're like, no, don't play it.
So your client gave you the introduction to the high stakes scene. Is that what you're saying? And that was how you sort of built. You started with that one relationship, and then it built from there.
So basically, how it went down is like I had a speech in Vienna, and on one of those speeches, like this poker player was, right. He's a very well known poker player, and he approached me afterwards. And he introduced me like to go to dinner with him, and he looks like a normal person, right? So like, you know, he doesn't look like I don't know, someone special. He's just a normal person, like all of us, right?
Yeah, sure.
So he introduced me for dinner, and then like basically he introduced me to like the game of poker, and I fell in love with the game as well. So I also play poker from time to time, but even more than that, I'm a coach, and I think that is where I'm best at.
All right, fantastic. All right, cool. So back on. So the poker players that you've been with, I've had a little look at you. We've spoken in the past about doing some mindset coaching. You've taken on some Australian players, which is I'm familiar with as well. Jixie, and he's done some coaching as well that I've known in Australia with some other mindset and training coaches, but he actually really applies himself really good. Is it Bency B? Was that the particular person that was the one who introduced you to this world of
Yes.
So it took me a while to realize who he is too, but he's actually an online high stakes player as well, to my understanding. Has training packages and all whatnot online. That'd probably be a good plug for you there, to if you know his websites and all that sort of stuff. I have noticed that your mindset training is continuing to grow. You have Twitch streamers that are now coming to you. I've seen one of the Irish guys, which is on your page. I'm noticing a fresh market coming out of India, who has just recently spoken to you as well. And I watched that, and I can understand that they're growing. You know what I mean? I don't think poker's their native game, but it's great to see that it's growing over there in India. How far across the world do you have clients?
I always say I have like clients on every continent now, right?
Yeah.
Except for Africa and Atlantica, right? Or what it's called, right?
Yeah. The basis of mindset training, what is it that is so important to somebody who's in our industry of poker to have somebody as mindset training? I know what I personally use it for, and I know how important it is to me for self-preparation and accountability and all that sort of stuff. And it's very difficult, but if somebody doesn't know it, I 100% always tell somebody, you've got to have somebody to help push you in that right direction. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion of having a mindset coach. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit more and how you can help and assist people in what you do in your professionalism to get them to be the best they can be.
Yeah, so basically my approach is a little bit different. And I think that is why, as you said, like I have a very strong growing brand, especially in the last half year or so, in the last 6 months, like my brand really, you know, took some speed up, let's say. And I think that's because that my approach is very different, because I'm not charging power. I think when it comes to mindset, this makes no sense. For example, I had one client who came to me and he said, I have a depression. He said, like, high stakes poker player. He said to me, I have a depression since 3 years, right? I would be a liar if I would told him I solve your 3-year depression in 1 hour, right? That would be like the biggest lie. No one in this world can do that, right? So what I do is I'm basically, I tell the poker players, we need to work, not just like on maybe they come to me like I have tilt, right? But usually those things, they go a little bit deeper. And it's not only tilt most of the time, they also have some other areas that could be improved. So what I do is I work with them long term, which is 10 weeks at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's work together for 10 weeks. And basically we create a step-by-step plan on, like, of course we start with the biggest problem first. Mm-hmm. And then like every week they get new content, and also which gives me the opportunity to hold them accountable. So I'm basically there for them every day of the week. If they have a question, they can like message me. I send them a voice message back, or maybe like a video if they need it, right? Sometimes I also had it once that someone has like a question. He just gave me a phone call for 10 minutes, right? We talked about this. So it's like a whole package basically, that my clients get, and they basically have unlimited access to me. It's like a personal trainer. It's like that's what one of my clients told me. I'm like a mental personal trainer, and I'm there 10 weeks every day of the week whenever they need me.
Yeah, I can't explain. Well, I could. I can explain off my own. I think I'm self-built, and I'm even interested in your service for my future endeavors that I want to do in long term that we've previously spoken about. But for somebody who's new and who goes through the frustrations of poker and may have frustrations in their life, even if it's not even at the poker table, it still reflects on the poker table. And if you're not trying to settle your mind, if you're not doing self-preparations and you don't have somebody to lean on and have that ear, you can easily turn the corner into a wrong direction and go down a bad habit you're particularly used to. And that's where you come in. That's that mindset coach and says, hey, mate, reset, get back on that line, follow that path. This is where you're going. Remember your goal. And that's the important of it. Because, yeah, and I think, look, psychology is one of my favorite topic of poker. I mean, there's strategy and then there's also skill, but they're completely separate to this. And the reason why psychology is so important to it, because if you don't settle your mind, if you are not happy within yourself, if everything around you is not running smooth, how do you expect to go into a game and play? It's not sufficient. And it puts yourself in a gamble. You might be irritable, so you're going to play irrational. You got to get rid of all those things. And that's exactly what I think that somebody like yourself does. I know I'm probably just going on. I wish more questions though. What is the most popular thing a client would come to you and that you would find on an everyday basis that it's more of a regular occurrence that, you know, somebody who probably has listened to this particular podcast goes, you know what, I do something like that. That's very familiar to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically what we have to understand is how the 10 weeks look like, because one of the things that I get that I hear the most is like 10 weeks, that's a lot, right? But usually the deeper you deep, the more the people realize usually 10 weeks are not enough, right? And so what I do is basically have like 3 areas that I coach people in, right? Or like in those 10 weeks, right? So 3 areas that I focus on. First area is the classical mindset stuff, like goal setting, self-talk, dealing with tilt, right? One of the most requested topics, and everything that most people should be familiar with when they look for a mindset coach, right? The classical mindset stuff. Then the second part is like pure performance. Like how can you play your A game on demand? How can you stay focused for long periods of time? But also how can you relax? How can you bring like balance in? Because usually we know that the better you can relax, the more you can like disconnect from poker, the harder you can like focus, and the harder you can like, you know, or the better you can perform, let's say.
That's it. Yeah.
And then the last part, the third part, is where we zoom out. I call it optimization, where we zoom out and take a look at the whole picture at your life and see, okay, what else can we improve in your life that, you know, maybe helps you with poker as well. An example that I can give you for the third area, because that is where most people have a question about, is like, I once had a call with a client and he was like overweight. And we had an amazing call. And at the end of the call, he's like, I have another question as well, if you don't mind. I'm like, sure, which question? And he's like, yeah, you see, I'm highly overweight. He was like really overweight. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, do you think I also should like train and get in shape? And this would help me with poker? I'm like, of course. You know, like poker is a mental game, 100%, but you also need like a fit body that helps you to play better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, your mind is your temple, and so is your body. And if your body's not in shape and you're not taking care of it and eating healthy and all that sort of stuff. I had a client who's a professional poker player who I always just had my last interview. His name was Mike Maddox. He's flown all the way over from Canada, and now he's playing in the Australian poker tours and all the tours across Australia, because mate, right now in Australia, poker is just absolutely booming for the independent scene. But he's got the same mindset as well. He talks about going to the market, buying bananas, not eating junk food, you know, keeping yourself in that steady time, taking some time for yourself to relax, predetermining how you want to approach the problems so that you can problem solve ahead. And when you speak to these people and you get on that same level, anybody who does mindset training or anybody who's on that level, plays high level poker because they take it seriously and they have routines and they put them in place and they do that because you do it for yourself and you do it to become a better person and you do it to have better results. Will that be right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And also one of the approaches that I take with my clients is I always tell them, like, when you work with me, I want you to make the mindset shift of like not becoming like a person who sits at home and plays cards. I want you to make the mental shift of becoming an athlete. Because here I'm from Austria and I know a lot of poker players who make more money than like the soccer players here, for example, right?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
being a European country, soccer's large,
Yeah.
Question before, I know I'm going off track. Do you guys have any restrictions or anything over in Austria with the way that you play poker, or is it just a regular game?
No, it's the good thing in Austria, I'm also not an expert on this, right? But what I know is that poker is seen as like a gambling, right? And gambling is like, you don't pay taxes for gambling in Austria. So as long as like the politicians see poker as like a game of luck, you don't have to pay taxes. That's why a lot of people from all over the world maybe move to Vienna or like stay there for a long period of time, because then they don't pay taxes on their income.
Yeah, sure. Whereas us poker players, we look at it as a game of skill and variance, where, and that's quite the truth. Like, there is more opportunity to be able to win these tournaments if you apply yourself to the game. But yeah, let's talk back to the mindset. Somebody who's a beginner and wants to come and see you for a beginner's course, what's some of the things that you would recommend that they would do to understand how to open their mindset and come into a professional mindset per se, and play their game to the best of their ability?
Mm-hmm. So the first and most important thing is always, like, to solving any problem in your life, the first thing is always awareness. That's always what we need, awareness of the problem. An example that I can give you, let's say there would be a person who drinks 2 bottles of wine every day. And he thinks that is normal, right? Because of all his friends are doing it. And as long as he thinks it's normal, he's not able to stop it, because he's like, yeah, it's like everyone does it, right? But that's a little bit like too much of alcohol, right? For my opinion, right? So as soon as he starts to realize, okay, drinking 2 bottles of wine a day is not normal, that is when he can change something. But before he even realized that, he's not able to change it.
Fantastic.
And we all have habits that we maybe not so aware of. That's why, like, coming back to what I said earlier, those 10 weeks, I know why I have 10 weeks, because like you will be more aware of like the things that you need to improve. And I'm always saying, like, I'm not selling information, I'm selling a transformation into the best player you can potentially be. And this takes a few weeks, obviously, right? And we'll also pinpoint a few things you're probably not aware of at the moment. So what I would suggest, if a new person wants to work with me, like, really sit down maybe a few days earlier before you get in touch with me, or like maybe like after, because usually we have a call and then we have a few days in between, because I'm also like booked, and then we have our first call. So latest within this, like in this time period, sit down and really write down what you want to improve. Maybe you can be a little bit more aware of like your thoughts or your emotions, like during the day or during your play, right? Because the more information I have, the better I can help someone, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that analogy. My analogy is very similar to yours. Like, I look at it on a strategic way. I relate everything to poker. I look at the game of poker as a game of life that you need to learn, and that there's difficulties on each sections of it that you need to learn. So it's kind of like a leaky boat. You know what I mean? So if you've got some bad strategy play where you're fresh to the game, and the new poker player who wants to chase the flushes and the straights and don't really understand your odds and your outs and all that sort of stuff, that's just a little leak in your boat. Now, the more leaks and holes that you have in the boat's going to go down. But the the more that you can learn how to fix those leaks and those odds, as in the strategy of the game, you can patch those leaks up. And eventually, you know, that's where you're tearing your game apart and down. And the same goes with your mindset, and the same goes with how you approach the psychology of oneself to the game. You must find those flaws. You must fill those holes in the boat. And once all those holes get done, after this 10-week period of working with somebody like yourself, you're going to have an engine on the back of that boat and you're just going to rock it, you know. So that's the way I kind of look at it. And that's my, like, you can relate it to the game of poker itself, because it's very cryptic. Like, I've played it for such a long time. It's just like, even the Art of War from Sun Tzu, you know, it's tactical as well. You know, you read that book and you think, oh my God, I can put some of these implications and check raises to how he's done, like absolutely crazy war moves, but he took people's lives. We don't. We take people's stacks. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I would highly suggest that if anybody had the time to get onto Karim's channel. Karim, do you have YouTube? How do people find you? I'll chuck some of these things in the links below if you'd like to give them a shout out. Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel which gets filled in the next few weeks with many new videos, right? Mm-hmm. I'm basically starting with YouTube because I didn't need it until now, right? I didn't need it, but I honestly think I have the potential to have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, mindset brand in the poker industry, in the next years. And what I need for that is definitely YouTube. So that's why I started to create more and more good content. I'm also invited today later on to another podcast with also big brand. Awesome. Do you want to go to what brand may that be? Yeah, so it's the Runchucks podcast. I don't know if you know him. Runchucks. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Will also come out in a few days or weeks. So basically YouTube is one thing, but I would say the easiest way to get in touch with me, because I want to be like as close as possible to the people who get in touch with me. So just send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. Right, you can link everything down below, or on my website, right? Just like karimchelli.com, right? Yep. I think that would be the easiest. And for all my viewers at home, I'm going to put all of that stuff in the description below too. So I'll put your Instagram, I'll put your YouTube channel. Hopefully you guys can like and subscribe to this channel right here at Poker Ballin. And you can also go over to Karim's channel. Wait, where is he? He's over there. Yeah, go over to Karim's channel and like and subscribe him as well. Watch his videos. Go onto his Facebook. Have a look at all the poker players that are shouting out to him and doing his 10-week course and saying that this thing has changed their life. These guys were successful prior to Karim meeting them, but they know what he's done to enhance their mind and make them more of a happy person and bring them in to the tournament society and make them with a professional mindset. Ask yourself, how far do you want to go? Right. That's the thing. If you love it, then just dive straight in. But yeah, thank you so much for being on my channel today. Karim, is always amazing spending time and talking with you. If you do have anything, if you want to come back on the channel later on another date and have another chat and give us some updates and cool stories and projects and people that you've spoken with or anything cool that's coming out of your life, I'd love to have you on board. Awesome. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate that. All right. Thank you, mate. Take care.